Well, howdy everyone, my name's Chris, and today I'm looking at the Canon 75 to 300mm f4 to 5.6 USM III lens. This is an older lens now, but it's fully compatible with Canon's APS-C and full-frame digital cameras. It's a budget lens which is often sold in cheap camera deals with Canon's less expensive digital SLR cameras. Is this lens really good enough to still be sold today? Let's take a look. The lens is a bit bulky and wobbly and generally cheap. It's not a complete piece of trash, but it feels very economical. The zoom ring is not very smooth at all, which is a bit annoying, but maybe not the end of the world. The front of the lens extends very far as you zoom in. The lens doesn't have full-time manual focusing, so you have to switch it to manual focus before you touch that focus ring, which is a bit old-fashioned. The focus ring is smooth to use, but the front element extends and rotates as you focus, which is a pain if you're using a polarizing filter. The lens uses a very basic version of Canon's USM autofocus motor. The good news is that the lens focuses fairly quietly. Unfortunately though, it's a little slow. Also, when you zoom in past about 200mm, the autofocus gets pretty inaccurate and it can be quite frustrating to get a sharp picture. This lens has no image stabilization. On a telephoto lens, this can be a real pain. At 300mm, you need a very fast shutter speed to get a good picture, so you'd better stick to using this on a bright sunny day, or else get your tripod out. I couldn't recommend this lens for video work because of the lack of image stabilization, and because the zoom ring is so rough to use. You'll get some good footage if you use a tripod, but don't try and use it for any handheld video work. Let's take a look at the image quality. I used the lens a lot at 75mm, and at that focal length it performs quite well. The colours and contrast are nice enough, as you can see in these pictures, and the lens gives a surprisingly narrow depth of field, so it's usable for portrait shots. Although in this portrait, you can see that the quality of the bokeh, the out of focus background, is a bit harsh and busy looking. But at its widest angles, I was getting nice pictures. And my test shots bore this out. At 75mm, wide open at f4, the centre of the picture is fairly sharp, although purple fringing is unfortunately visible. The corners get quite soft though, and you have to stop down to about f8 before the picture is sharp enough across the frame. So the lens gives a somewhat mixed performance at its widest angle. Zoom in to 135mm and things seem slightly better. You can get a fairly sharp picture with the aperture wide open. There's little chromatic aberration, and the picture quality improves again as we stop down the aperture to f8. Unfortunately, it's all downhill from here. Zoom in again to 200mm and things start to get unpleasant. Even in the middle of the picture, even stop down to f11, the image quality is quite soft, getting even worse as we look in the corners. Chromatic aberration also begins to rear its ugly head, a shadow of worse things to come. Zoom in all the way to 300mm and the picture quality is all over the place. Wide open at f5.6, the image is fairly soft in the centre and gets worse in the corners, where we also encounter alarming levels of chromatic aberration. If you stop down to f8, we find a bit of sharpness in the centre of the picture, and the corners are slightly improved from terrible to not so terrible. Checking out these 300mm pictures on my monitor made me wince. Bear in mind it took me a long time to get pictures as sharp as this, because the lens's autofocus was so inaccurate it just wouldn't play ball. So I wasn't angry with this camera lens, just disappointed. At its widest angles, it's pretty good, and I was getting nice pictures at 75mm. But from 200mm onwards, there's a real witch's brew of image quality problems, which makes using this lens a disturbing experience. With this lens, the more you turn that jerky zoom ring away from 75mm, the uglier things get. There's absolutely no reason to buy this lens over the far superior Canon 55-250mm IS, unless you plan to upgrade to an expensive full-frame digital camera. But then again, full-frame digital camera users probably have better taste than this. This isn't a lens I can recommend.